You worked with the Beatles.
I know, yeah. I show up at Capitol Records. I entered the booth. There's this guy sitting down who turns to me, and it's Paul McCartney. Paul comes out on the stage. He was in the booth. He comes out and he sits down in a chair. When I met John Williams, for example, I was at a session, and I never wanted to meet John Williams as a fan. I wanted to meet him as a peer. For me, the ultimate prize is work with the person. I'm sitting in London at a hotel bar with Alan Menken right next to me, and he's telling me about the proper way to drink a martini.
On this week's episode, we have my friend and composer of my short film Taking the Plunge, Jerome Leroy. This man is a majorly accomplished composer, orchestrator, and conductor who's worked on so many projects from films to television to Disney theme park attractions. He tells us some pretty mind-blowing stories about working with the likes of John Williams, Alan Menken, and Paul McCartney. Thank you so much for being here. Let's get into it.
I'm preparing my own concert.
Are you really?
So, yeah.
Here?
Yeah. No,
or...
in Paris.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So, and it's a completely different ball game. Film music, you're in the studio, you're behind, you're in front of the computer the whole time. And then when you go in the studio, it's the very end of the process, and you can use a microscope and you can change little things. But when you're in live situation, it's very different because it feels like you're naked. It's just like the performance. So all the prep has to be beforehand, before you show up in front of 200 people.
Oh my God.
And I haven't done that in 30 years. So I think I was 17 the last time I did a concert of my own music.
Wow.
Or 18, yeah.
17 when you did your first?
Yeah, I haven't done any since then because I've been basically a man of the, in the shadows.
Right. How did you have enough work at 17 to put on?
Well, I didn't do the whole, it wasn't the whole concert, it was my high school. My final year, the teacher was they always do a concert with the music majors, basically. And I asked, can I play some of my music? And I had 2 pieces for piano and cello and 1 orchestral piece that I wrote, which was a ripoff of Princess Leia's theme from Star Wars.
Amazing.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Great artist steal.
Exactly, right? Yeah, and I did that, but after that, it's just like film music was basically the goal. So learning to do that, not the live stuff.
Yeah. When did you start actually composing music?
I think I was 12 or 11.
Wow.
I think so, at the piano. Yeah.
What inspired you to start doing that?
Writing music, I think it was just I was in front of the piano and I didn't really like to practice. And so I'm in front of the piano. I was like, what could I do that it's not practicing?
Right. What can I'm just going to make up my own song.
And it was just like, yeah, that sounds, and I always liked the piano as an instrument. My dad played the piano. My older brother played the piano. My older sister played the piano. So it was always, I would hear melodies, I would hear things like this, but I couldn't necessarily play at that level yet. So when I'm in front of the piano, I didn't want to practice the stuff that you have to practice.
Yeah.
And instead, it was just like, oh, let me just noodle around, and see what happens. So it started like this, but then film music happened. And then when film music started, then the piano ended up being a way of hopefully writing film music. Cool. Or music with some kind of a story.
Yeah. Do you remember the first movie that you saw where you noticed the soundtrack?
Yeah, it's actually, so it's Jurassic Park is the first one.
Sure.
I'm not very original. There's so many of my generation, just like discovered John Williams and discovered film music.
I mean, he's the best.
Way. It's a good way to start, let's say.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the actual movie. It was the trailer. Because I saw the trailer before the movie came out, and it had the John Williams music on it. And I think that's the first time that I realized the combo basically between moving pictures and music and syncing, something that actually works in tandem. That's just something that I never really thought about before. Right. So that was, I think, the moment really was just like, wow, what is that? That's completely, I never realized this was something that existed,
And you connected those dots of like, oh, me fiddling on the piano could actually turn into that.
Yeah, I think there was, to me, what was amazing about film music, and especially Jurassic Park, I think, I try to figure out over time why that movie, why that score. I think it's because it was orchestral music, and my parents listened to classical music exclusively, but they listened a lot to Beethoven, and and so the big orchestral music, that's something that was a language that I knew in a way, and the big melodies and things like this.
Right.
And then suddenly there was, at the same time, when I was 12, the cinema was something that I was really into, and the passion really started growing. So suddenly it's like you have cinema and you have music. So something that's completely new to me, and something that I've been hearing since I was, 2 or 3 or 4.
Right.
So I think there was, I think it was like the combination of things that just, it's just happened.
There's a bit of being predestined to work on things or do a certain type of job based off of the way that you were raised or grown up, and like growing up in a musical household, that kind of lends itself to, oh, this would make sense for me as an artistic person to follow that.
Yeah, and what was weird is that my parents never went to the movies, so I didn't have any kind of education, if you will, when it comes to the movies. And that's something that I discovered and I realized when I was 17, I think. I knew I wanted to do film music. I wanted to be a film composer. I read this book about scoring to picture, a French book, and the book started, it was all about film music. The book started with a preface basically saying, first of all, you are not a film composer. You're a composer or you're not. And I remember being so mad. It's just like, what a stupid book. It's about film music. And it started saying, and I really did not get it. And for, I think, almost 20 years, to me, that made no sense. I concluded that it was a French thing, because it's true that in France, especially back then, the idea of having a career as just a film composer just really didn't make sense. Whereas in the US, and especially in LA, that was something that you could actually make a living just scoring pictures.
Sure, yeah.
And there was this huge tradition of composers that would do just that, like my idol, John Williams. So for a long time, I felt that that was the job. You're a film composer. That's who you are. It's changed a little bit. Yeah, but,
well, you've gotten to do so many different things that are outside of film, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Like theme parks, and TV shows and shorts, and that you could kind of categorize all of those as film to some degree or another.
Yeah,
maybe not the theme
media,
parks,
maybe
but media. Yeah, exactly. Because you're telling a story with moving pictures still, which is the kind of that original inspiration for getting into it in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that's probably why, because I've been in so many. It's always the same industry in a way. It's entertainment, but in so many facets of it. And it's true that when you do TV or when you do theatrical, or you do, if you do animation, there's so many genres too, right? But once you start doing documentaries and you do commercials and you do theme park and you work on records, or it ends up being, it's almost like you're a musician in a way.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
I think what happened the past few years is I realized that when you start writing music in so many different areas, you realize that the one common thing is you. It's your creativity, and that ends up hopefully applying everywhere. But I think for a long time, I felt that I was more of a craftsman, and less of an artist. Right. And so, if you're a craftsman, it's you're thinking about the craft itself, but you don't realize that there is something about you that's specific, that's singular, that only you really has. So yeah, it took a while for me to figure that out.
Wow, yeah. Well, especially when you're the first book that you're reading is like, you're not a film composer.
It's almost like, you know what, I'm going to be, and then I don't care what you think.
Right. There was a lot of borders and lines drawn initially. But, but then all of those inspirations come together, and then that makes you who you are, you know?
In the end, maybe that book actually, I had to read it to kind of establish myself as a film composer and say, this is going to be the ambition. This is going to be who I want to become. And once I got there and I started writing, music for more and more pictures, and then eventually you're like, well, that's not the only thing that I do.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something else, maybe it's a little wider.
Do you play instruments as well, or?
I play the piano.
Piano, yeah. I mean, that's kind of the most important, straightforward one. There you go.
Well, especially because nowadays, as a composer, you're in front of the computer, and you need a keyboard, and you need to be able to input the music. So, if I played another instrument, I would have to learn my way, with the piano anyway.
Yeah.
But that's the way I started. Yeah.
Just picturing you in different rooms, like.
Yeah. In the end, now with the computer, you end up playing all those instruments that you put in the computer. But at the end of the day, I'm lucky that I get to work with real players who will do that way better than I could. Yeah.
Well, I remember because we, worked on our short film together, Taking the Plunge.
Must have been 2014 or 15?
2014, that's right, which would be, 2026, 11 years ago?
Yeah, 11, 12 years, yeah.
Oof. But yeah, we worked on Taking the Plunge together. And, I remember at that point in your career, I think, it was earlier on, and you had been working at that time, but you were doing shorts as well, right? Were shorts kind of like the beginning of writing for film? Or were you doing both simultaneously?
So when I moved to LA, I went to Boston and studied at Berklee College of Music, and then I moved to LA. And the goal was to get a visa to be able to stay in the States because I'm from France originally. So I had to get a visa. And at the time, the recommended way was to try to find a composer that you could be an assistant to, and then eventually, hopefully, get sponsored. Right. So I knew I had to get that job. I had a year to find a composer that would sponsor me. Wow. That was the big, basically the one thing on my mind. And then I started working for the composer, and then the goal was I want to do a great job as an assistant. And for I think for 5 years, I did not write a single note of music.
Wow.
And then eventually it's been like, okay, you want to be a film composer, you want to be a composer, and you're not writing any music. You're going to have to fix that. And so how do you start? I mean, that was the big question.
Right.
I went online. I think at the time it was on Craigslist, and went to see the ads on Craigslist, and obviously most of it were going to be short films.
Right.
I mean, it was better if it were a short film because they would pay as much for a feature than they would for a short film anyway. And I didn't do it to get money because I had a full-time job, so that wasn't the goal. Was to get experience.
Yeah.
So short films ended up being the way I started writing music. So people would start like it's easier for people to trust you when it's just a short film. There may be students so that was the start. And I knew of people who started in doing short films. So I was looking for experience. I was looking for connections, hopefully. I think I was trying to find ways to write music.
Yeah.
So that's the way it started.
And then you found your way. Eventually, you got connected with Sari Roderick, our mutual friend.
I started writing music really, I would say. So I moved to LA in 2005. I think 2010 is when I started really trying to get gigs writing music for film. And it was an ad on Mendy.com that there was an ad from Sari for her short film Brother.
Right.
And I replied to the ad. We had a great. There was no Zoom at the time. Was it Skype? Was it? I don't know what it was.
Might have been Skype.
Might have been Skype.
I think it was Skype. I think we met over Skype too.
It was
later
Skype.
on.
Yeah. So that was, I think Sari was 2012.
Yes.
Brother.
Yeah.
And she was a student at SVA, and that's how I discovered SVA. And then the following year, I did Justin Melillo's short film called Kiburi.
Yeah.
And then I think the following year was
with us, with Taking a Plunge.
Yeah. And I think the nice thing with SVA was, I mean, first, it's like Sari, her short blew me away. It was
It's
so
an
good.
amazing short film.
It was really,
Yeah.
and so, but also I discovered SVA and I realized there's such a, I know it's undergrad, right?
Yeah.
But the quality was even at 10 years ago, was 15 years ago, was incredible, and also a lot of those short films didn't have any dialogue.
Right.
So it was actually, okay, you have 3 minutes or 4 minutes and just write some music. So it was a great way to get started. On top of that, the school had a grant for music.
Mm-hmm.
So you could actually hire some musicians to record it. So it's just, yeah, it just was a no-brainer once I entered that realm,
Yeah. Well, and it's, I mean, animation is the perfect partner because you have to tell everything with just the visuals and the music.
Mhm.
Like it's those two things and that's it. So you're having to tell full story
Mhm.
with your music in every single one,
Mhm.
which with every soundtrack you can, but sometimes people could get by with the dialogue and the other things. And
yeah,
this you have to fully feel the emotion through the music that
Yeah.
you're writing.
yeah,
And that is fully 100% what you did with Brother, which was a beautiful film. And the music, I can still remember the music. And when we were looking for composers, when we were taking the plunge, we were making our thesis film, me and Liz, Thaddeus and Marie, we were thinking of different things, and we had watched Sari's, and we are like, that's a beautiful song that's in Sari's. And we listened to a few of the other theses, and we talked to John McIntosh
Mhm.
at the time, and he was like, oh, we should get you in touch
Yeah.
with Jerome. Once we met with you, it was like, oh, okay.
And I think we met at SVA actually.
Probably.
I think we
Did you
met
come
in-
out for a visit? And
Yeah,
then-
because I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I remember us doing a spotting session at SVA. We did something like this.
Yeah, I definitely at some point in it we did it in person. I do remember
Or
meeting
was it a
with you.
presentation? I think.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, when I had done some of the music.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe it was like, oh yeah, that's what
first
it was.
version,
It was
yeah.
like the first version of it that we were like showing to John and
Yeah.
whoever else.
Yeah.
And because I remember meeting with you over Skype so many times,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah, that's right. We had so many.
we
yeah,
had a
yeah,
lot
I
of like
remember that.
back and forth meetings,
Yeah.
and it was me and Marie ended up doing a lot more of the music part of it. So we ended up meeting with you a lot, and it was just such an amazing
Yeah.
time, and it was so much fun working with you on it. You did
Yeah, same.
such a phenomenal job.
When
on
I
the
saw
music.
when I saw your film, it's just like this stuff is like Pixar quality. I mean, honestly, I remember I was blown away, and
Thank
I
you.
think, yeah, it was just. I still think, it still is. It's so easy, I think, for animation, especially computer animation, to 20 years later or 15 years look dated.
Mhm.
And I think taking the plunge looks great today.
Thank you. Half of animated films is the music, especially when it's pantomime. And so you were a totally invaluable part of our team, and the movie would not be the movie without your music. So thank you so much
Of
for
course, yeah.
being collaborating with us and making such a beautiful score and making people feel the emotion that we were trying to get
Mhm.
across. And the music is the thing that does that. You're when you listen to, well, and we can get to this in a little bit, but when you're watching a horror movie, you're not scared if the sound is off.
Yeah.
You're watching Jaws, it's just water
Mhm.
for a long time,
Yeah.
for an hour of the movie. But when you hear the bottom,
Mhm.
bum 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 bum, that's what makes you feel what the fear or the love or the sadness or all those things.
I actually was a few weeks ago. I think I was thinking about this because I realized that, which is obvious, but music, I think, is one of the only, if not the only, element in the movie that is not directly about what's going on necessarily on
Right,
screen in the
right.
story. Like sound effects, visual effects, obviously the acting is going to be about what's happening on screen. But music actually can tell you something that's not happening on screen.
Mhm.
And I don't think, dialogue would need to come. You can have a voiceover. Voiceover would be from someone who's not on the screen, so that would work, right?
Sure.
But there's not that many elements where you could say it can actually convey an emotion. or anything really, that is not, that augments what you see on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
That's very powerful as a storytelling tool,
Right.
right? Because it's not direct. You can actually be indirect, and you can suggest things that your story visually is not suggesting.
Mm-hmm. All the subtext that you can put into music, and then
Yeah.
have it come back later, and have it be slightly different later,
Mm-hmm.
and then that you just feel uneasy as a viewer,
Mm-hmm.
and then you go, why is that? And if you really break it down, you go, oh, they set us up earlier to
Yeah.
know that music means something, but now it's shifted. Or
And it becomes very interesting, the relationship with the director who
Yeah.
really knows their subject, their film, because they will suggest musical ideas that you wouldn't think about. It's like if I watched a movie on its own,
Mhm.
I've worked with directors who'll be like, on this I need a musical moments where something happens. I'm like, but there's nothing on the screen. Like, yeah, but we're going to use this as something that the audience is not expecting. And it's like, to me, that's fascinating. It's kind of like, if you, obviously Jaws is a perfect example, but if you think about Eyes Wide Shut, for example, the music that Kubrick picked for so many of those scenes, if you watch the same movie without the music, you would never pick those pieces of music.
Sure.
It's just like something that doesn't necessarily match, but it's the disconnect between the two that creates the effect. And it's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember we would sit there and we'd go through all of these different beats, and in this moment, this has to happen,
Yeah.
and that has to happen. And, there's that back and forth. But when you're seeing that for the first time, and we're showing you, storyboards, and we're going, this is happening in this moment, how do you even begin to write a theme for something that's, so, what's the word for it? It's in the beginning stages of it being worked on, and you're looking at it early. How do you find inspiration for
I wish I knew.
for composing? Like, where do you even start composing?
It's a great question, because it's kind of like the crux of it, right?
Yeah.
It's how do you get inspiration? It's not a cop out to say this, but it might be the best way to try to understand it. Is right now we're talking, we're not thinking that we're talking,
Right.
We're using language as a way to convey something, right? Meaning. And I think music is the same thing, really, deep down. It just happens to be a language that I don't know if I've mastered it, but I know how to use it. So if I watch a scene, the scene gives me an emotion, and I'm better at explaining that emotion through music than I am through words.
Wow.
That's what
That's
it is,
it.
I think.
Yeah.
When I watch the scene now, I'm able to deconstruct it very quickly and get to exactly what it's about very quickly. Now, it does not mean that my instinct is the right one, because if I don't have a director who has a very good idea of what they want to do, I might go to something that's the most, if not cliche, the most obvious way of approaching it. And sometimes that's not what we want. We actually want a different way of approaching it, something that might not be the most obvious.
Right.
And that's something that I need a director to tell me. Because if I watch a movie with no music, I will come up with something, but that might not be the most interesting way of approaching it. So I can always come up with something, but it might not be good.
Well, I'm
Or
sure.
interesting.
No, everything that you came up with was always good when we were working with you. It was always that, what you're saying, when you're working with another person, it's like, what is that? What direction do we want to move the story in? And sometimes, sometimes all the time, two creative people are going to come at it from different angles. It's just making it cohesive and together.
I have a perfect example, actually, on Taking the Plunge, which is the first part, I think the first 2 minutes, when he's on the pier and he loses the ring, right? I know that out of the whole 7 minutes of music, the one portion that we were really trying how musically what it was going to be like was the very beginning. Once he's under the water, very quickly, okay, the music was obvious, very cinematic and everything. But the first part was, how cartoonish do we play it?
Sure.
Do we go full on cartoon and try to basically hit every little thing happening to push for the comedy, or do we try, which is what I did, which is what you guys didn't like, because it was too on the nose, or it was just too, you wanted something broader. You wanted something that was more cinematic, more Pixar. So my first approach wasn't the right one, right? So that's something that
For that scene, right?
for that scene,
and that's always,
it doesn't mean that it was
back and forth. Yeah,
it doesn't mean that with another director
it might have been
or another movie,
exactly,
it might
yeah.
be exactly what they want.
Yeah.
It's just not the approach that you were trying to
Right.
get at. So that's what's great about the process to me, is that I'm very happy to not be the smartest person in the room. I
Yeah,
want that
same.
back and forth, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Well,
think
and that's,
it's,
we had 4 directors on our
Yeah.
on our film too, which, it really, we did that as college students, but it teaches you compromise very quickly because there's 4 of you. So you have to make decisions, and a lot of times we had to argue our point. Most of the time you have to argue your point. You go, well, I want this to be, I remember an example was there was like an over the shoulder shot. I think it might be when Steven's swimming away at the end and Squiddy is looking up at him. And I just always was pushing for it being an over the shoulder shot because I wanted them to still feel connected, even though he was going to see them disconnecting, and that was my reasoning for it. But there were 100 other things. I think that the rest of the team, the ending was their, they were like, oh, he should propose whether he has the ring or not. Initially I was like, no, they got to get the ring. I couldn't get it out of my head initially, and I was just like, oh yeah, obviously that is the best way to end it.
I think it's a miracle, considering you had four cooks in the kitchen.
Oh yeah,
that you have the result you had.
we're very fortunate.
There's a little bit of a miracle in this, how good it
totally.
is, because the fact that nobody quit, nobody left crying or slammed the door. I mean, I don't know what happened behind the scene, man, but
No.
it's
We
yeah.
never had that. We always, there was always disagreements, but they were creative disagreements, and it was never a personal thing. I think we all knew that from the start.
But that's what's hard, right? It's
Yeah.
to not make it personal.
Yeah, it is hard.
I think for all of us as artists, even if you think of yourself as a craftsman, eventually when you create something, it comes from here.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, it might come from here, but it comes from
It
here
starts
because
there.
it's so many hours. It's so hard that unless you love it, there's no way you're going to be doing this.
Totally.
It's of course there's a part of it which is you learn to do the craft, and it's an intellectual process. But the reason we keep doing it after all those years is because we really love it, and that's how we, you guys were sleeping like 4 hours a night or something crazy.
It was a lot.
Yeah. So I think it's one of the things that I learned fairly early on was, don't be too attached to something you create, because it is a collaborative medium, and you're going to have other people that might not know as much as you do about music that will tell you this does not work. So you have to be okay with that. But at the same time, listen and hear what they have to say, because they'll come at it from another perspective, another point of view. And that point of view, a lot of time, is as valid, if not more valid, because it's a wider lens. Notes that I get, if I'm able to pull back a little bit, a lot of them end up being for the better.
So you've gotten to work on so many different things now, from that beginning, the short films. And what was the first feature that you got to compose?
So the first feature was an indie feature called The Mist Over Tale. A small indie feature, but it was great because the director was very, his name is Tappenherr, and he's very artistic. So there was no temp track, so I didn't have to copy someone else's style. It was very open. We had conversations, very intellectual conversations about music. I was able to record with live players. He had a small budget, and I was able to record with live players. The movie didn't end up going really, places, but it's one of the first scores I did, and very proud of it. When you start, you never really know where you're going to get, and obviously you always try to do the best you can, but very rarely do you start on like a big blockbuster or something.
Right. No.
So So for me, that was a really great one because you learn to work with musicians. You learn to. It's a great. Every movie I think is a chance to learn and to grow. I mean, I don't want to go into cliches, but it really feels like it. You know.
Yeah, you did that film. I remember, I was telling you a little earlier, I remember going to see, it's called Handmaids. Was that?
The Housemaid.
The Housemaid.
The
That was it.
Housemaid. Yeah.
Housemaid.
Yeah, that was.
Thinking
Yeah.
Handmaid's Tale. Housemaid.
Yeah.
And I remember going to see that, the screening of it here in LA
Yeah.
with you, and it was so much fun. I'm not normally a horror. I don't usually go see horror movies.
I don't
'cause-
either. I score them, but I don't watch
Scored
them.
them.
Yeah.
But it was fun. It was fun to go see, and also I remember the music being great, and I was super impressed and happy for you, and I was like, oh, this is so cool to see like a screening of something that you worked on.
It's an interesting project because to me, this shows the importance of connections because I got this gig. It's a Vietnamese film.
Yeah.
And the producer, a guy named Timothy Bui, and he was a producer on another movie that I scored called The Throwaways, that was on Crackle at the time. That's how it came out. And I did that movie because of another producer who was a director on a movie called Touchback that I did additional music for.
Okay.
So, and that my boss at the time, William Ross, was the lead composer on. So it's like, and then after I did The Housemaid for Tim, he was a producer on another 2 movies that I scored for him. Then he directed his own film that I did the music for. So it's from Touchback that led to The Throwaways, then to The Housemaid, then to Chi Chi M, another Vietnamese movie, then to The Lift, another Vietnamese movie, and then eventually Daydreamer. So
wow, just
one
the domino
connection,
effect.
yeah, one connection.
Yeah, all of those gigs have led to more gigs and more gigs and more gigs. When did you get involved with? You've done so many projects for Disney now, especially in the parks.
Yeah,
you did some TV show stuff too.
Vampirina for Disney Junior, yeah,
and Ridley
Jones for Netflix, yeah,
which is amazing. So cool. So those were both kids, children's television shows.
Yeah. So for Vampirina, it wasn't my gig. It was my friend Leila Minui, who was the composer on it.
Yeah.
And you know, a TV show requires, it's obviously every week you have to get the music out, and so typically it's good to have a team in place so that, because it's just very, very hard to do on your own. You have to, especially nowadays. It used to be you had a big team that the studio would pay for, and now it's basically just a composer and their team. So you receive the episode, you have to spot it, figure out where music is going to go. You have to write the music, you have to program it, potentially record it if you have some musicians, and you might need to write 20 minutes per week, and deliver it.
Wow.
So it's a very, very busy work. And so Leila was trying to build a team. And so at the very beginning, I think I started on Vampirina on episode 6 or 7. So she already had creating the whole template, the whole style of the music. Everything was already in there. And it's more like, okay, here's the theme. Can you take that 1-minute scene and just make that work, right? So on Vampirina, every week, every episode, there would be new characters or new locations or a MacGuffin or something that required a new theme, 2-3 new themes. So she would write the themes. She would write, I think at first it was 90% of the music, and say, use the theme and try to do this and score this. And so I had been recommended to her by a composer acquaintance, of us, of the 2 of us. That's how we started working together. And so we did that for 3 seasons. Over time, I started doing more and more and writing more and more, and we had a great time working together. So she called me back on season 2 and season 3, and when that was over, the producer of Vampirina moved to Netflix, and she had Ridley Jones and needed music, and so she asked Leila, and Leila said that she wanted to do it, but she really wanted to work with me again. So we basically teamed up, and and did that for another 2-3 years basically.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
the TV show stuff I love. I mean, it's still animation, and
Yeah.
the truth is, what I did on Brother, what I did on Taking the Plunge, you actually still apply that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the fundamentals are still there.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got to go way faster because it's not 7 minutes; it's 10 or 11 or 12, and it's every 5 days.
Yeah.
So you're on a roll basically, and you realize at the end. I think I calculated that by the end of Vampirina, I had written 9 or 10 hours of music
Wow.
over the whole three seasons,
Yeah.
because it ended up being 150 episodes, 10-minute
Wow.
episodes.
There you go, Vampirina in concert. There you go.
Yeah,
Just do
you could
10
well
hours
because
of...
you could do suites. We had
Yeah.
themes for every character. We have so no, it's a massive amount of work, but it's massive amount of work, but it's nothing special in the sense that this happens all the time.
Right, you're doing it weekly. Yeah,
We're just
yeah.
doing something that everybody does
Yeah.
in that line of work. But that was really fun. Working on the park stuff is a
Yeah.
completely different side because I started doing this with Bill Ross. He had done a lot of stuff with John Williams and Disney Imagineering, who they're the company at Disney that basically takes care of building everything for the parks.
Yep.
And they were doing a new version of Star Tours. Star Tours had been around for I think 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years, and they were doing Star Tours: The Adventure Continues. And they were rebuilding a lot of stuff, changing the queue, the rooms, for the queue line, and they asked Bill to write some music, and I was his assistant at the time, so I discovered basically a world. It's going to sound very weird, but I had no idea there was music written for the parks or even arranged for the parks. I had no idea. So we did that, and then I go to the parks, and I'm like, oh my God, there's music everywhere.
Right,
There's
everywhere you
music
walk.
everywhere you
Constantly.
walk. And so that music has to be created and put together by someone. And so suddenly it just opened my eyes to a world that I had no idea. It's almost like when I discovered film music in a way,
Yeah.
because I realized it's this place that I love going as a guest. But on top of that, there's so many creative opportunities.
Yes.
Because obviously you have so many different characters, so many different IPs or franchises, that you can draw from, so many movies you can draw from. But the way to use it in the park, there's so many ways. You have the ride. Each ride can be, the coaster is different than a dark ride, for example, or you have a lot of different types of rides.
Yeah.
And then you have live shows.
Mm-hmm.
You have meet and
Parades.
greets, and you
Yeah.
have fireworks, and you have parades, and you have, and they're always trying to figure out a new way to tell a story.
Mm-hmm.
So we started working for Imagineering. We did some, Bill was hired to do some work for Universal Orlando and adapt John's music for Harry Potter there. I went to Orlando and saw the ride being built. I walked around the ride, around the track of the ride,
cool.
just to get a sense of the scale of it. It was massive. And then I did a bunch of stuff for Disney when I was working with Bill. The last one I did with Bill, he was hired to do the Star Wars version of Space Mountain, which is called Hyperspace Mountain.
I love Hyperspace Mountain.
and so here Sammy was taking the Star Wars music and arranging it to work with a ride. And as part of my job with Bill at the time, we were partners by that time, and we had to figure out exactly what the ride, the track, the layout of the ride, and all the different bumps and when it goes up and goes down, and try to figure it out. They send you a video, but eventually you have to test it. So we would put the music, and the guest didn't know. Bill would write it once, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm done." So I would have. On I think it was the iPod at the time, but on the iPod I would have the track, the 4-minute track or whatever, and as soon as the the RV, the vehicle just goes up, I would start it and I would add headphones. And we're going, it's going up, going down. And it's like, okay, yeah, we're a little late here. We're a little early here.
Wow.
Right? I would have to calculate it. And I don't know if you know this, but in a roller coaster, the amount of time that basically the speed of the vehicle is dependent on the weight of people on it. Because it's all about gravity, basically. Right. So once you get up there and you start going free fall, basically, then it's all about how heavy the whole thing is. And in a 3 or 4 minutes, I think on Star Tours, there was 5-second difference depending on how heavy the vehicle was.
The whole vehicle, yeah.
So you can imagine when you're trying to sync your music to something happening.
Wow.
3 or 4 or 5 seconds is huge. I mean, already half a second is huge.
Right.
So the way the music is built is, they have sensors all around the track, and so you build the music in with triggers, basically. So you have little chunks. You divide the music in 9, I think in this case, 11, 12 chunks, and every maybe 20 seconds, you do a ta 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 ta. And you stop that thing, and then you have another one that's right? And you're able to move it depending on how quickly the vehicle gets to that place. You trigger the next. So you're constantly in sync, right? Wow. But the only way to test it is to actually write the thing and make sure that it's working. So I think by the time I was done, I calculated that I wrote 26 times. And I'm not kidding. I had to have physical therapy because my neck.
Oh, yeah.
I actually I was driving it. Every time I would turn, it would the back of my neck. I was like, okay, I think I may have overdone it. but that was the way, I think
that's the only way.
It's just drive down to Disneyland, go to at like 5 or 6 a.m. so that you can be the first one to ride it. Right after they're done with the security checks.
Okay.
And before they start with the early, the magic hour thing.
Why did you have to go so early?
Because they start magic hour, which is basically the park opens, I think, an hour before.
Right.
The actual, for people who are guests of the hotel, right?
Yes.
And so ideally you do it without, nobody's supposed, Disneyland is supposed to keep the magic the whole way, right? Nobody's supposed to know. Those things have people who work on them.
Right, of course.
So you would go there as early as possible to be able to get 2 or 3 riding with the team so that you could talk about the music and how it works.
Wow.
But then eventually the guest starts coming in.
Right.
And so you can still ride with the guest, but you can't take 6 or 7 or 8 people in there, right?
Sure.
So you can one person, maybe, or 2 people.
Yeah.
And then eventually
just a guy sitting with it.
Yeah. It's like, it looks weird. And he's just doing it 3 or 4 times.
Like, what's this guy doing?
Dressed with a tie and and a hard hat.
Oh, an hard hat.
No, but it's
full blown Imagineer hard hat.
That was, and I like doing it. I mean, I love roller coasters, but that was the way. Then eventually I would say we would do it and I'd tell Bill, okay, here we're about a second off, or here it's too early. We need to. And he was like, okay, let's look at the score. Let's see how we can make that a better tweak and everything. Yeah. So that was the first big one I did. And once I became independent, when I went solo, Disney Imagineering came back to me and say, hey, would you consult with us on a bunch of different shows and rides? And so I've been doing, I did a bunch of stuff for them since then.
And Galaxy's Edge too?
Yeah, I recently, so I worked on Avengers Campus. I did a bunch of shows for them. I worked on rides in Shanghai, in Tokyo. Then I worked on something for the Star Cruiser. The hotel, the Star Wars hotel that they had for a few years.
Yes.
So, which doesn't exist anymore, but I did music for that. And then recently I arranged Star Wars music for 7 fireworks shows.
Wow.
At Galaxy's Edge. Yeah.
So cool. And it's how full circle that the beginning, like the reason why you kind of got into what you wanted to do, film composing, was John Williams.
Yeah.
And now the music that you're adjusting and tweaking is John Williams.
Yeah.
Like, what, in what world is that,
Yeah. It's,
does that happen?
in some ways, it's uncanny.
Yeah.
I think there's been a few things like this in my career where I've been like, this is crazy that this is happening. When I met John Williams, for example, I was at a session, and I never wanted to meet John Williams as a fan. I wanted to meet him as a peer, because I was never raised that way. I'm not a big, I don't get starstruck, and I'm like, oh my God, can I have an autograph? You know, I never cared about that. But for me, the ultimate prize is work with the person, you know? So there's a few people like this in that I've been able to work with.
Quite a few, yeah.
In my career, where with Bill, we worked on the Academy Awards, for example. And when you work on the music for the Academy Awards, you're backstage during the show, and Spielberg walks by, and George Lucas walked by, and you know, it's crazy. You're kind of part of that little world for a few hours. I met James Newton Howard, for example, who was a big idol of mine. I mean, I loved his music, and I met him because I was mixing a score at his studio. So I didn't meet him at a screening or something where it's just like I'm in, you know?
Right.
But I think for Star Wars, it's going to sound weird, but I think it just makes sense. The reason I've been doing those things is because I know Star Wars very well. I know the music very well.
Like, it's on my resume. My qualifications for Star Wars.
I'm not going to say I'm the one who knows it the best. You have people online, man, they're crazier than me. I mean, they're insane. They know it better than me, but they don't work in the industry.
Right.
So for the people who work in the industry, who are close enough to Disney that Disney would want to hire them, I basically am part of a few people that they know they can call, that will know the music, that knows the orchestra and knows how to work with an orchestra. So I'm not saying that I don't take it for granted, because there's a lot of really talented people who can do it as well as I do, but it really feels like, I don't know, it feels like it's my place. And as I'm saying it, I feel I've been listening to this music, and I've been drinking this music for 30 years, and I still drink it today. You know, I still listen to the albums. I still study the music.
Those are the right people for the jobs, though. The people who are so passionate about it,
so.
live and breathe it.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, every friend that I know that, you know, has worked on a Star Wars project specifically has usually been a big Star Wars fan, and I think that those projects always end up being the best.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I that's why it's like, again, you never want to take it for granted. Actually, it got to the point. It actually got to the point that I was so close to it that I realized I was very close to it, because I was doing a lot of, I was working with Bill Ross, and we were doing this arranging for Star Wars. And eventually I went solo. And when I went solo, it was in 2015. But Bill still was working on the Star Wars stuff. And Bill was working on either as a conductor or as an orchestrator. He basically is John Williams' right-hand man. So they did the new trilogy that is Star Wars 7, 8, 9, on which I was not involved.
Right.
And I thought about it, it's like I'd never felt bad about not being involved, because I realized at some point, it's like I also need to start writing my own music.
Yes.
I didn't want to spend all my time.
Right.
I mean, if that gig had come, I would say, of course, I would have done it.
Yeah.
But there was something at some point, I wanted to develop something else too. So I love when they're calling me, because anytime, so if Disney comes and say, hey, we have a Star Wars project, do you want to, look at it and arrange some music? Or I'm like, oh my God, yes.
Yes, I'll pop back into that world anytime. Yeah.
But I also don't mind having the time to have other opportunities.
Of course, yeah.
So
you're an artist. You have to be able to do all different things,
guys,
not just one thing.
I try. I think at a certain point, if I had wanted to be an assistant or a consultant, that could have been a career, and there's nothing wrong in doing that. Mm-hmm. Nothing wrong. In the same way as after 5 years, I realized I haven't been writing any music, and I want to be a composer, so I should write music.
Right.
Eventually, when you're an assistant, you realize, okay, I'm really helping someone else's vision. And so I would like to try my hand at being the guy with the vision and see how that goes. I think your career is like, it's like you're on a boat, and the only thing you can do is you can try to steer the boat and move the sail, but eventually the wind, there's either wind or there's no wind, and if the wind goes crazy in one direction, you will do the best you can, but
it takes you where it wants to go.
There's at some point, so when I look back, there's always been some wind. I would never have expected the career that I've had to this point. Because it's just, there's so many different worlds, so many different ways of working with music that I would never have imagined I would do that.
Well, yeah, it's mind blowing, some of the stuff that you've gotten to do. I mean, and the people that you've gotten to work with. You said John Williams. I saw that you worked with Alan Menken at one point as well.
God, that was great. Yeah.
What was...
Talk about something completely out of left field.
What was that project for?
So, this thing, it's a project that never saw the light of day.
Oh, interesting.
And it's to this day, the people that were involved in it, we all agree, to this day was one of the best projects of my whole career. So what happened was, there's a show at the Wynn Resort, the Wynn Casino in Vegas called The Rev.
Yes, it was amazing. It was.
Have you seen it?
I saw it. Yeah. It was my favorite show in Vegas, and then it closed.
So, but back in 2016, they decided that they wanted to change completely Le Rev and keep most of the show, but change the music and have Alan Menken do the whole music.
Oh, what?
And Alan had hired an arranger to help him with, he would create all those things in the computer, and he didn't have time to actually, create the scores and all that stuff. So he hired an arranger whose name is Christopher Tin, who's a colleague and a good friend of mine, to actually program it and create the sequence in the computer, because Alan doesn't do that. And usually he has a team to do it, but they were busy working on films.
Right.
So he needed another team. So Chris did that, and Chris hired me to orchestrate. And so I can't remember how many, I think it was 2 hours or something of music for the whole show, completely redone. And we went to London to record it. We had 5 days of recording with Alan in the room. And we spent, Alan is an amazing character, and the sessions were so relaxed. He was watching the debate with Trump while we were all like recording, and he's like, he's just like watching this thing. But then in the evening, we would just go at the bar and we'd have martinis, and I'm like, talk about like moments where I'm just like, this is crazy, right?
Yeah.
I'm sitting in London at the hotel bar with Alan Menken right next to me, and he's telling me about the proper way to drink a martini. And I'm like, this guy, I mean, it's even before Jurassic Park, Disney. And for me, I've watched those movies with my brother and sisters on VHS at home, definitely before the Aladdin and all that stuff. So this guy is sitting next to me, and we're just having a drink. Like, we're not buddies, but we're colleagues, but we're just, having a good time. That was, talk about an out-of-body experience. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. So we did that it was, I think, 2 or 3 months of work. We had a massive orchestra. We had the RPO, the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra.
Yeah.
We had a choir. I mean, it was like the biggest session I've ever worked on. 6 days. And then at the end of the day, Steve Wynn finally heard the music and decided that he didn't like it. So the whole thing was done.
He finally heard them?
Yeah, he just didn't like it. He spent millions, and he decided no. So the music never saw the light of day. It's just like,
Steve, you couldn't have listened to the first,
well, I think
he
might have heard stuff and he wasn't completely sure, and then he, but here's the weird thing is, if you've seen the Le Rev, imagine it was a very dark, very maybe very mature type of music. And Alan comes in and Alan writes Alan Menken stuff. So you have this beautiful melodies, and it's like, I think there's a mismatch somewhere, but they just pushed and they did the whole thing, and it was eventually like, well, I guess we're not going to use it. Okay, thank you for your time.
Wow.
Didn't make a difference to us. We got paid very well.
Yeah, well,
It's
a
great
little bit of a
project.
difference,
But
like,
it's well in the sense that it's not like
yeah,
we're
right.
not
You
going to
still
make
got
money
paid
down the
for it.
line. We do get paid for it.
Yeah.
And I said, well, here you go if you don't want to use it. It's yeah,
That's
it
up
was
to you.
frustrating at first. Like, man, we so many hours, so many days of work.
Yeah.
But I guess that's the prerogative they have.
Sometimes that happens. That happens with movies too. People
It's true.
they
Yeah.
work on movies
They get
for
started
like
on something and
a
then
year, and
yeah.
then the movie gets
Yeah.
they end up can't
In animation, I know it happens a bunch.
it happens a lot too
Yeah.
much in animation. Yeah, where they
That
get
must be so frustrating.
I have been fortunate thus far to not work on one that's happened to, but I know a lot of people who have gone through that, and it's rough because like some of them people are like done with their job, like you, like they had finished the job completely, and then the movie
And
gets
you realize
canceled.
it's never going to be, and it's then you can't even use it as a credit or something.
No, exactly.
because
And even if you're proud of it, you're not
you can't show
get to
anything.
show it to
Yeah.
anybody. So
Yeah.
it's a hard thing, but man, at least you got to walk away with an experience.
It was an
got to,
amazing experience. Man.
yeah,
God,
it was positive,
yeah.
and
he actually was. And it's going to sound maybe weird, but he was one of the first. I think he was the first composer that I worked with that actually demonstrated that you can do scoring sessions without stress, without being stressed, because he was so relaxed during the session. He was such a nice guy. I mean, such a sweetheart. And he's Alan Menken. I mean, he's not. It sounds weird saying this, but as you probably know, as I'm sure you know, in this business, a lot of time, people who have a lot of achievements, it gets to their head
right.
a little, and then they consciously or not use that as an excuse to not be very nice.
Yeah, for bad behavior.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is very unfortunate. And I've seen a lot of people like that. I'm not going to go into names, but not Bill. Bill was great. And I've worked with Bill for 9 years, I think, or 10 years. But I've worked with other composers, and I've heard from friends, colleagues. It's a very stressful gig. It's a very stressful environment. You're typically at the end of the project. So when all the schedules get compressed and the release date is there and you got to get everything done and you're asking for changes last minute, it is very stressful. But Alan was just like, yeah, man, it's like watching the debate.
You
like,
want to see the debate?
Great. Oh, that sounds great. Oh, maybe change this. He completely trusted his team that he had put together.
Yeah.
And obviously you have to do your job. Everybody was doing the job at the highest level. Nothing is left to chance, obviously. But I remember thinking like, wow, he's so it is possible.
Yeah. Well, and just the nature of you're recording with a live orchestra, it's so many moving parts that the stress is just high because you're like, oh, any one thing can throw this whole thing off. So it makes sense that the natural inclination is to be higher stress, but it's good that somebody at the top is like, no, I'm setting the tone. It's
the conclusion should be, well, because he's done it so many times, it's normal that he's more relaxed. But the truth is, a lot of people who've been doing it for 30 years are still stressed when they get to the finish line. I'm not saying I'm like him, but it was a little bit of a North Star saying you can be very successful and you can be a nice guy. What a concept.
Yeah.
It was a great experience.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy.
And the same thing, again, the same thing happened. Obviously, John Williams is like this. These sessions are extremely relaxed. He demands very, very high level, but he treats people well. And
Did you get to interact with him at all?
Just a little bit.
Yeah.
Just a little bit in the session that he wasn't supposed to be there, but he was doing they were doing the dub for Warhorse Next Door with Spielberg, and we were doing a session for Barbara Streisand, and they showed up.
Casual.
Yeah. But I noticed this with I did a session I conducted a song for Paul McCartney for the Beatles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, I know.
Talk about another one of those moments.
You worked with the Beatles.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. I
How-
know. Yeah.
No one else can say that except the people
Yeah,
in the
there's not that
room.
many. Actually, my friend Christopher Tin, when the thing came out about me conducting the session with Paul McCartney for a Beatles song, he said, "Man, it's like I'm so jealous right now." I'm like, what are you talking about? It's like, man, it's like you don't realize that you're part of the Beatles history.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just like, I didn't really think about it. I just did my job. And then eventually like, oh, this is a big deal.
You're so much a part of the Beatles history now that I was in Las Vegas and I went to the Paul McCartney concert and they played Now and Then.
Yeah.
And who pops up on
No,
the screen
you're
on the
kidding.
stage?
Oh my
You're
God,
there, yeah,
Jesus.
conducting the orchestra. And I was just like, Drum, it's Drum. It's Drum.
God, yeah.
Like, what is happening? This is amazing.
That was another, to talk about full circle.
Yeah.
I'm on the podium, so I didn't know. So the way this happened
Right.
is...
How did this happen? It's
So
amazing.
I get an email from a friend of mine, a colleague, composer, great arranger, great, amazing conductor, Ben Foster, who's from the UK. He's in London. He sent me the email saying, "Hey, what are you doing in 5 days? Because there's this session that I've arranged. Me and Giles Martin, who's a big producer and record producer and arrangers, we've arranged this chart. I should conduct it, but they want to record in LA and I can't get a work visa in time. So would you conduct it for me?" And I'm like, "Sure." And he's like, "I can't tell you who it's for because it's very confidential, but I can only tell you it's for one of the biggest British, an iconic British artist." And I'm clueless, so I had no idea who that could be. I did not think, I was just like, maybe, I remember thinking either Mick Jagger or Elton John.
Right.
That's the two names that came to mind. But I was like, my biggest concern at that point is I want to do a good job always. So my big concern is, okay, what is the chart going? I couldn't see the chart. I was going to see the chart on the day of.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be a complicated music to conduct or not, so I just didn't know. I show up at Capitol Records, the studio, Capitol Studios, and I entered the booth, and who's there in the room? I see Giles Martin, I see Ben Foster, and this guy sitting down who turns to me, and it's Paul McCartney. I was like, oh, I guess it's Paul McCartney. But I'm so concerned about doing a good job.
Right.
That in my mind, I'm not thinking, oh my God, Paul McCartney. I'm just thinking, okay, where's the music? I need to look at it. I need to make sure, And I only really realized is I'm on the podium, I'm conducting, and the chart it's a beautiful chart, but it's not hard to conduct. So I'm doing this thing, and it's like I'm conducting in 4/4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, which is a very basic conducting pattern, right? And the players are so good, they don't really need me. They need me to tell them when to start. But once we're starting, they're looking at their parts. They hear the click, so they're okay. But I'm freaking out. I'm like, if I miss a 4/4 bar, it's the end of my career, And then eventually, Paul comes out on the stage. He was in the booth. He comes out and he sits down in a chair. I don't know why he did this. If he wanted to hear the musicians in the room, they had cameras. They were shooting B-roll basically, which I didn't realize.
You didn't realize till you're there.
No, it's just like so I'm looking at my chart because I'm like, oh my God, I need to make sure that okay. So eventually he comes and he's sitting down in front of me, and I'm conducting, and then I have this out of body experience. Like, this is insane because the Beatles and Paul McCartney, like my parents, they don't listen to pop music. They don't listen. No pop music. When I was a kid, in the record collection, you had only classical music. The only thing you had from pop music was the Beatles, the Red and Blue compilation album. That's the only thing. So my parents know the Beatles. They don't know anybody else. They don't know Michael Jackson, but they know the Beatles and they know who Paul McCartney is. And so I'm conducting and thinking, this is crazy. I was listening to the Beatles when I was 7 or 8. And now the guy is actually in front of me watching me conduct. It's just crazy. And this is where I didn't lose it, but I'm like, okay, go back to the music. It's like this is why you're here. But it was crazy.
Oh my God.
Because film music, so that was the goal. Writing film music, moving to Hollywood, hopefully making it. That was a goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully working with someone like John Williams. That was a dream. But um, being in the record world and meeting people like Barbara Streisand or Celine Dion, or that wasn't part of the plan, and certainly not Paul McCartney. And that was just like, and I didn't, I did the gig, was very happy because it went well, and but then we didn't hear about it for 2 years.
Wow.
So I did the session. I didn't know what it was for. I didn't know it was. I had no idea it was a Beatles song, because they play me the vocal, the John Lennon vocal, but that they had been able to isolate. Right. But they didn't say what it was for. I didn't know if it was going to be like an Easter egg at the end of a compilation, or I didn't know. I thought it was a Paul McCartney release. It's only 2 years later that they basically announced it as. I learned a week before. And actually, I learned when they released the behind the scene documentary, and I was like, oh, I guess that's our song, But they didn't tell us, and a lot of time I had been in enough sessions where you have cameras, but nothing is used. Right. That happens all the time. Marketing stuff, they're shooting B-roll, and you'll never see any of that. Not only did they use it, but they had those moments of me conducting. And I thought at first it was, so they released the documentary first. So I see myself, oh, that's fun. It's like, well, yeah, I guess I was there at the session, right? And then the next day or a week later, I can't remember, they released the song and the video clip. And I'm in the video clip. I'm like,
you're in the music video.
In the music video. I'm like, okay, that's crazy. And my friends were like, no, it's like, you don't realize, because if you're in a music video, this music video is basically there forever.
Yeah.
It's always going to be there. So anytime you watch the music video, you're there conducting for a few seconds.
You were conducting the orchestra to the last Beatles song.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that it makes some kind of sense. It really doesn't. It makes no sense.
It's just so amazing, and I was just so beyond happy for you when I saw it. I was just like, I can't. Amazing, just amazing, just so cool.
I still. It's weird. It's just, honestly, it's just weird.
Yeah.
And again, here, it's connections.
Yeah.
Because I had worked with Ben. He had conducted a few of my the scores that we had done with Bill. He knew me. Clearly, he must have liked the work that I did. Felt good enough to trust me on something that was a pretty massive session. In the end,
wow.
Trusted that I would be quiet about it. If he says we can't talk about it, you just don't talk about it. Nobody knew. I think maybe my wife at the time knew, but not that many more people.
Yeah. For 2 years.
Yeah. And I told him after the fact, I said, I thanked him profusely. I said, man, 2 years later when it came out, I was like, man, I can't remember. I can't believe that, you gave me, you offered that job. And it's like, because so many other conductors could have done it. And he said to me something which I've tried to remember, which is, he said, no, you have to understand that the reason I picked you is because I'm going to throw a few flowers at myself. But basically he said, you're the full package, not in the sense that you're a good conductor, but there are many people who are good conductors. But he felt that I could behave in the session. I was going to be a pro. I was going to be there to do my job. I was not going to be a fan or be I could do that. And I think that's why he offered it to me. Yeah. The job is, it's the Beatles, it's Paul, it's Giles, it's Ben.
Yeah.
I'm a small part of it.
Yes. But you're still a collaborator.
But I'm still part of it.
That.
Yeah.
In that whole thing.
Yeah. So again, I don't take it for granted. I think it's crazy.
Yeah.
All those experiences, even now we're talking about it. you stop thinking about it.
Right.
I really, one of the things I've been trying to do the past 10 years, I'd say, especially since I've been solo, is on my own, is realizing how lucky I am, because when you do something regularly for a certain amount of time, you tend to forget that it's not normal. And for me, a good example is whenever I go to Abbey Road to record, I'm reminded of it because you have people outside, people do pilgrimage. They go to Abbey Road to be able to sign on the wall, to take pictures of themselves. Like it's the Beatles, obviously, but some other artists, but really the Beatles. Abbey Road is like this iconic recording place, right? And I'm so used to recording at Abbey Road, not because I go there every day, but because I go there on average once a year, sometimes more, that when I get there, I just go in. I know exactly where to go. I know, obviously, I have the credential to be able to check in and all that stuff, but it's, in many ways, I feel like it's home when I'm at Abbey Road. But anytime you come in, you have people outside. They look at you going in, and for them, this is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And
those doors open.
I think it's easy to lose sight of it in the same way as you work at DreamWorks, you worked at Disney Animation. You go there, there's the hat, there's all that stuff, there's Walt Disney, it's incredible.
Yeah.
To have, I think it's a privilege. I know, totally. It's a work and it's hard but I mean, in some ways, it's like Disney, it's even more iconic. DreamWorks has done obviously amazing films.
Yeah.
But the history of Disney is, it's 100 years. It's basically, it's all our childhood.
Yeah.
And it's the world's childhood to a certain extent.
Totally.
Same thing when I work in the parks. You see people's faces when they go to Disneyland. And you're like, it's such a privilege to be a part of that and be a small cog in that huge history. And I never want to take it for granted, man. I think it's, because also I've seen so many of my classmates who have tried and for many reasons, including very good reasons, realize it's not for them.
Yeah.
I think it's these are jobs, industries that basically are not kind.
Right.
If you're not, they basically throw you out if you're not, and you have to put in so much time.
You have to fight. You have to fight for to be able to stay and be able to be a part of that, and that it is totally a privilege. It's totally luck, timing. It's a combination of multiple things. Luck, timing, and talent are always the three that I think of. In talent is just work. It's just it's not natural talent that just you have it. It's like that's the beginning of it, and then the foundation of it, and then the rest is the work that you do and the learning that you do over the years of doing that job. But luck, timing, and talent. And then, when you go into those places like Abbey Road or, Disney Animation, when I would walk in there every day, I would remind myself where I was. And just as I'm on my way to my desk, my office that I have at Disney Animation, or even today I had that thought. I was at DreamWorks and I was walking to my desk and I'm like, I'm at DreamWorks Animation right now. I'm walking to my desk. And I remember wanting this so badly when I was younger and wanting to do those jobs. And now that's just it's the everyday, and you have to.
Exactly. It's like a daily thing.
It's the daily thing.
So if you don't stop
and
be like, wow, this is where this movie that I love so much was made.
Right. Yeah.
And it doesn't
all these movies that I love much were made.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be there. It doesn't mean that it's not your place.
Yeah.
When I go to Abbey Road to record there, I'm there for a reason. I wouldn't be allowed in if I wasn't there for a reason. And the reason why I'm there is because I must be pretty decent at my job.
Right.
You wouldn't be at DreamWorks if you weren't pretty decent at your job.
Right.
So that's still true. You worked hard, and yes, you got the right opportunity. Maybe you were at the right place at the right time, but you deserve to be there. I think it's more of it doesn't mean that we're imposters. It's
Right.
easy to have that syndrome.
Even though we all have it a little bit.
We
Yeah.
all have it a little bit, but we've worked really hard to get there.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why they give us, for you, they have a badge and you can come in and they let you in.
Right.
We're part of something that's way bigger than us.
Yes.
Way bigger than us.
And hopefully will live beyond us.
Yeah. Yeah. And the parks is a perfect example. It's you get stuff that's built there and it's going to be there for the next 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a way the movie is the same thing. It has the movies that are successful have such a long shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
We watch movies from Disney 100 years later.
Yeah.
Songs are the same. When you work on the song, that song, if it's successful, it's going to last for a very long time.
Now and then we'll be around for much longer than we will be.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
amazing.
It's really amazing, and I'm sure you've had those moments too, right? Where you have those out of body experiencing.
Yeah.
Wow, wait, I'm working on. I mean, you work on the Avengers.
Yeah. I mean, that was very out of body.
That's a pretty big movie to be a part of.
It was also one of my first movies, because the first movie I worked on was Thor Ragnarok, which was mind blowing as that was.
Mm-hmm.
And then my next opportunity was, they said, oh, there's a project that's going on in Atlanta. They didn't say what it was. They said it's Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out after I said, okay, I'll do it. They're like, it's Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. So that was that was being shot out of a cannon pretty early on. It was fun. It was very intense, very quick, but yeah, I same thing though. There were different times during that experience where I'd be walking down the hallway and there'd be artwork all over the walls, all the concept art of Wakanda and Iron Man and Thanos and his planet and all that stuff, and that's just what it's our job. Our job is making this thing, making that movie, come to life in whatever way we could. And then we're in a room. I went and had lunch one day, and I'm sitting. We were literally in a converted school. It was a converted elementary school.
Okay.
And so the lockers were our hallway, and that's where the artwork for Wakanda and everything was on the lockers of this school. And then there was a teacher's room at the end that was our little lunch cafeteria because it had a microwave. So it was a small little room, maybe the size of this space. And I was sitting in there one day. I heated up my my meal that I had brought, and the Russo brothers walked in this room. It's just us in this. But being a professional, I wasn't oh my God,
I love you.
I love you guys. Yeah, Civil War and Arrested Development. Oh my God, you guys. And I'm just eating my lunch, and they're just in there, and they're like, hey, and I was like, hey, how are you? But those moments, that's the moment where you're just sitting there, you're going, what is happening right now? This is my job. This is weird. And it's just how did I get this lucky in this moment to be able to be here during this moment in time? And I can only imagine it's been the same thing with you through all of those experiences, including the ones where you're writing something that you're composing and you're working and collaborating directly with the director and making something special in that moment. We taking the plunge was that for us in our relationship and friendship, was that moment in time was very special. And that film hopefully lives on beyond it, or it lives on beyond that moment of collaboration, which has been our careers basically.
Were you always into Marvel stuff, or was it something that you were late into, or
I loved, I didn't read the comics as much. I read a few comics when I was younger, but Iron Man was really, that was I was all in.
When the movie came out?
When the movie came out, yeah.
So for me, it was interesting because I watched Iron Man. I think I watched Iron Man 2, and then I kind of stopped. I think my son was born around that time, so the movies were just harder at that point and to go. And so I missed a bunch of them. And once I became freelance, I had a lot of time the first 6 months. And I figured, okay, Disney I can't remember exactly at what point Disney bought Marvel,
Mm-hmm.
but there was a point where they hired me to do a Pixar spectacular, and I
Oh,
realized,
cool.
okay, I should rewatch all the Pixar movies just to get a sense of like literally research. I mean, it was a marathon. It's great watching Pixar movies, but I
Yeah.
thought I should refresh my memory. And at some point, I thought, well, they just bought Marvel. I should I should probably watch the movie. So I did a Marvel marathon,
Oh,
and I watched
wow.
at the time. I think it was 22 movies at the time, and I watched all of them. And I was
Yeah.
blown away at how good when you watch all of them, up to basically I think it was Black Panther. I think was the last one at the time, but up to there, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
You know the how good the movies are and how well somehow the world, the universe is constructed.
Yeah.
It's insane. The run of amazing movies. Um, I think it must have been just a few years later when they called me up to arrange music for Avengers Campus.
Yes.
And again, it's just like the goal was for the shows was to basically use the music from the movies to
Mm-hmm.
be able to create a show that felt like the film, the cinematic experience. And eventually, I'm getting all the scores from all the different composers, and I have scores from Michael Giacchino for Spider-Man, and I have Alan Silvestri, the Avengers, and I have Hugh Jackman with Captain America, and I have all those different
Doctor Strange.
and I have Doctor Strange with Michael Giacchino, and I'm basically looking at this like this is crazy. It's like I have this material in front of me of composers that I love so much. I mean, Alan Silvestri was one of my first big, again, iconic idols, and again, kind of like an uncanny experience because if you had asked me when I discovered Back to the Future or where Alan Silvestri, if you had told me you're going to actually work with his material and to try to do the job of making sure it's well represented once it's arranged for another show, for another medium, I would say it makes no sense. It doesn't make sense. But again, I had done the work on my own of researching, of watching all the movies and to get a sense of how the music works and what are the themes and without having a job. So I'm not saying, I don't know if you believe in visualizing and putting it out there and saying this is going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's been pretty efficient for me because a lot of the stuff that I worked on, there's a direct connection with when I was at some point earlier in my life.
Right.
For 20 years, I've been hiding behind all those people telling me what to do. And it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. But I think now as I'm getting older, as there's more mileage, I'm like, I'd like to take the car and kind of just go down any road, to speak still in cinematic terms.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'd like to also try that, to explore. That'd be fun.
I can't wait to see your concert in LA when you do your premiere of your music.
Down the line.
I'll be there.
Yeah, well,
Send me a ticket, please.
Thank you. We'll see what happens. It could end up being like, it's not working. That's not working. Go back to making film music.
I think you have it as a goal. Visualize it. Put it out there.
Knock on wood. Knock on wood. Yeah.
I'll be there. We'll make it happen.
Appreciate it.
You'll mostly make it happen. What do you love most about what you get to do?
That's a great question. To me, it's the variety. I love that every project has different needs. I get to, you create something out of nowhere. But when I do a project, even when that project is really, really hard, and it sometimes might not go the way you want, at some point the project is done. It's over. And you've created something, you put something in the world. Hopefully it has a release date. Hopefully it's not like the rev and eventually nothing comes out, but it's done. Even if it doesn't come out, you finished it.
You finished the project.
And then you're moving on to something else, hopefully. And man, I told this to my kids because I said I hope you find a passion, and I said the reason why I'm saying this is because many people, maybe not most people, but a lot of people, on Sunday night, they're dreading the next morning.
Yeah.
Monday morning. I mean, it's a cliche. It's never happened in my life. There hasn't been a Sunday where I felt like, ugh, tomorrow is Monday. Never. Every Sunday night I was like, yes, tomorrow is Monday. I get to create. I get to dig inside of me.
Yeah.
And to create something out of nothing. Even when you're part of the huge machine, and you know what I'm talking about, because you're, and you probably in a way you see it more than me because you have people around you. It's just me by myself and in front of the computer a lot of the time. But even when I'm with musicians and we're recording together, we're creating something. We're all bringing something, creating something that did not exist when we woke up. I think it's a blessing, man. It's a blessing, and the fact that people come to me, ask me, "Hey, I have this project. Can you help?" Basically,
yeah,
we'll pay you, but can you help? Can you bring your expertise? I mean, that's so validating. That's maybe it's because I don't necessarily have, didn't necessarily have the self-confidence to feel like I could just do it on my own. But whenever someone comes back to me and say, "Hey, we have another project. Do you want to join in?" I'm like, wow, it's like I must have done something right.
Yeah.
So there's this validation as well. When you've done it for 20 years, you must be doing something right.
Right.
Yeah, I really love that about the job, and it gives me every day. I feel like I'm contributing to a certain extent. I'm not. It's not Leonardo da Vinci, but you're contributing to something.
I couldn't agree with you more. It's the same. It's you're putting positivity and creativity out into the world, and that's what you hope. If you put that out, hopefully that comes back to you in some way. And I think the experience of doing that actually is a lot of times the positivity that comes back to you.
I agree. The experience, I think, is extremely worthwhile. It's so validating, man. Yeah.
Totally. Well, every life is about experiences. Work is about experiences, and this experience to get to sit down with you and talk to you after all these years that we haven't really gotten to do this. We've always been connected, but haven't really been able to sit and talk in a long time. I'm just so thankful for this opportunity, and so thankful that you made the time while you're visiting from
of course, man.
Paris. You're visiting
very happy
for a few
very
days,
happy.
so it's just just so great to see you, and so thankful that we got to have this conversation.
Well, thank you for having me, man. I love your podcast, and I wish you many more interviews, because it's really great what you're doing. I think to put a spotlight on all those different things, and especially, man, some of the people you interview, it's like, oh, is that a job? I like, you had no idea.
That's
right.
Part of
I mean,
the
at least
goal.
you could say film music. Okay, well, that's something that people know, I guess. But
all of the
previs, what does that mean? It's like there's things like this, like look, what is it? The development,
right? Look development.
Look development. It's
Sorry,
what is that?
Right.
Now I can explain it. But it's yeah. So I think it's nice that you're putting a spotlight on. Now we're watching a movie and there's like 500 people at the end. There's 10 minutes of credits, and who are these people? What do they do? So thank you for doing that. It's really great.
Of course, it's literally my pleasure. It's so much fun to do this. It's so much fun to get to hang out with people that I am friends with and respect and appreciate what they do so much. And I just love doing this and getting these opportunities. It's an excuse for me to be able to come over and sit and talk with me for 2 hours. So it's really just as selfish. I want to sit and talk with you. So
awesome.
Thank you so much, Jerome. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching this episode of Nick's Friends in Film. Please like, comment, and subscribe below. And we'll catch you next time. Join us next week for our next friend. Thanks so much. Bye.